At my graduation ceremony, I quietly transferred my entire $5 million inheritance from my grandfather into a trust under my name. Nobody noticed. Nobody asked why. The next morning, my parents and my brother woke up expecting to access the money they thought was waiting for them. Instead, they found every door locked. That's when my phone started ringing. I was sitting in the second row in my cap and gown when the final documents came through. My grandfather's estate attorney had sent me a secure link that morning, and I held my phone low against my lap, read every page twice, and signed with my finger while the dean talked about bright futures. The transfer confirmed at 4:47 p.m. By the time I walked across the stage, every dollar my grandfather left me was locked inside an irrevocable trust that only I controlled. Then I went to dinner with my family and let them toast to my future with money they believed was theirs. My grandfather told me about the cancer 3 years before he died. He told me first, before my parents, before my brother, because he said I was the only one in the family who would ask what he needed instead of asking what he was leaving behind. He was right. For 3 years, we met in his study once a month, always in the evening, and built the trust one document at a time. He insisted on irrevocable. He said if the money could move, they would find a way to move it. I didn't fully understand what he meant until the morning after graduation. The first call came at 7:52 a.m. My brother. He skipped hello. He told me he had signed a lease on office space for his startup 11 days earlier, and that he'd used my inheritance as proof of funds. He told the landlord his sister would be wiring the deposit on Monday. He said it the way you'd report a weather delay, like the only problem here was timing. When I said no money was coming, he laughed. Then he stopped laughing and asked what I meant by trust. The second call was my mother. She had put a deposit on a full kitchen remodel, $40,000, non-refundable, contractor starting in 2 weeks. She'd already given them my name for the balance. She kept saying the word we. We planned this. We agreed. We discussed it as a family. We had never discussed anything. They had discussed it over my head for a year, the way you'd plan around a vending machine. The third call was my father. Calm. The voice he uses on clients when a portfolio drops. He said there had clearly been a misunderstanding about my grandfather's wishes, and that the right thing was for everyone to sit down with the family attorney and sort it out like adults. I told him that was a good idea. Then I told him I was already sitting in her office. She'd been expecting me. There was an envelope on her desk with my name on it in my grandfather's handwriting. She slid it across and said he'd left instructions that I open it the morning after graduation, and not one day before. The letter inside was dated 2 years before he died. Notarized. 3 pages. The first line said, by the time you read this, the phone will already be ringing. He predicted all of it. He wrote that my brother would have spent the money before he had it because he had never once waited to be given a thing before counting it. He wrote that my mother would have committed it because she had spent 30 years committing money that hadn't arrived yet. He wrote that my father would call last and sound the most reasonable, and he underlined one sentence. Don't mistake reasonable for right. He even guessed the timing. Within 24 hours, he wrote, they were 19 minutes early. My father called back at noon and asked for a family meeting at the attorney's office that afternoon. They arrived at retail. My mother wouldn't look at me. My brother started talking about good faith and verbal agreements before he was in the chair. My father folded his hands on the table and asked the attorney, very politely, to explain how my grandfather's clear intention to provide for his family had been so badly distorted. So I took out the letter and read it to them out loud, every page, including the part where he predicted this exact meeting. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then my brother said, how long have you been planning this? And the attorney answered before I could. She opened a folder she'd had sitting beside her the entire meeting. 30 years of records. Every loan they never paid back. Every credit card he quietly cleared. Every check he wrote to cover a deposit. A lease. A sure thing. Dated, itemized, organized by year. $312,000. He kept the receipts, she said. All of them. He instructed me to show you this folder only if you claim to know his intentions. My mother stared at the table. My brother went through the pages like he was looking for a mistake. And my father, who had not raised his voice once in 26 years, looked at the folder for a long time and finally said one sentence. So he knew. Yeah, Dad. He always knew. Full story on the channel linked below.